So welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us today. We are going to wait a few more seconds to let um, the participants join us. We are going to have a quick first poll just to gauge a little bit who is our audience. So there was a poll to let us know, from which background you're coming from. Okay, so from the first few, I see, okay, consultant, other. Okay, it's already a nice mix. So I suggest we start. We'll see if we have more people joining us. So again, welcome and joining us for today's session. So this webinar is brought to you by the Net Zero Carbon Events, a global initiative that brings together venues, organizers, suppliers, and destinations with one shared goal, making the events industry sustainable. So today's topic is zero food waste at events, and our objective is to give you practical advice on how you can make it happen at your events. So you're going to hear from three fantastic speakers today. So it's Ben Lefilibert, is the CEO and founder of Lightblue Food Waste Solutions. He'll be walking us through the pledge framework and what it takes to achieve verified zero food waste. Remeke de Jong is Senior Manager for Education and Impact at ICCA, the International Congress and Convention Association. She'll share the story of how ICCA tackled food waste at their 2025 Congress in Porto. And then Claudia Tato Santos is a Quality Training and Human Resources Coordinator at Silva Carvalho Catering, and who, with her team on the ground, made it all happen for the ICCA Congress from the operational side. And then I'll have the pleasure to moderate this session as a member of the Net Zero Carbon Events Food and Food Waste Task Force. So let's look at the agenda. So we'll start with, why food waste is such a big deal globally and specifically in our industry. Then Ben will share or introduce the pledge framework. We'll hear about, so from Remeke, the ICCA Congress study. So, how they made it happen with the help then from Silva Carvalho Catering and everything, how they put everything into practice. And finally, how Lightblue supported the whole journey. And we'll close with a Q&A and some takeaways. So feel free to drop your questions in the chat and we'll go through them at the end of the session. Now, just a quick word on who's behind this initiative. So Net Zero Carbon Events was launched at the COP26 in Glasgow in 2021 with over 100 founding signatories from across the global event industry. The goal is simple: help our industry reach net zero by 2050. That means developing shared roadmaps, common measurement tools, and practical guidance across all areas like energy, travel, and today's topic, food. And you will understand why food plays such a key role. So let's start with a scale of the problem. So every year, and we can move to the next slide, please. Every year, the world wastes over 1 billion tons of food. That's food that was grown, transported, cooked, and then thrown away. And if we don't change anything, that figure will hit 1.2 billion tons by 2050. Food waste hurts in three ways. So it's bad for the planet. Food waste generates 8 to 10% of the global greenhouse gas emission. That's nearly 5 times more than the entire aviation sector. So we very often point the finger to the travel and the flights at events, but food waste is actually a much bigger problem. It's bad for people. We waste enough food to feed over 800 million that go hungry every day. And finally, it's bad for business. Food waste is expensive. There's the cost of the food itself, the cost of disposing of it, and the extra efforts needed to maintain and clean the safe environment. This is why food waste is no longer just an environmental issue, it's a financial and reputational one. And I think that we're a little bit too fast with the slides. So I'm going to tackle the, why does our, and how does our industry fit in? So the food sector, which includes catering and events, is responsible for 28% of all global food waste. So that's about 294 million tons every year. So food service is one of the 3 top contributors globally. So, and we're part of this big problem, which means we also have a real opportunity to be part of the solution. Now, if we bring this closer to our reality, so at an average, a catered event, and we can move to the next slide. So it's between 15 and 20% of all the food served ends up wasted. So in practice, that translates to roughly 0.5 kilo to 1.2 kilo of food wasted per delegate per day. So if we try to put this in perspective, for a conference of about 500 participants for 2 days, that could easily mean 0.5 ton of food is going in the bin. And that's not acceptable. I think we all agree. And we know we can avoid that. So now the question is, do the clients actually really care about this? And the answer is yes, and the data backs it up. So we know it's always kind of hard to get the data because it's not always very much tracked. But there was a major survey done by the Wildlife Fund covering over 550 professional event planners in the US. And they found that 55% of them rated food waste prevention as a very high priority for their delegates. So this is not a fringe concern anymore. It's becoming a baseline expectation. And that expectation is going to grow, from the clients, from the attendees at the events, from the destination, and increasingly also from regulations. So now if we move to the next slide, so, where there's a bit of like an uncomfortable truth coming out from that research is that there's a gap between the intention and the action. So 92% of the planners said they would respond positively if a venue proactively raised the subject of food waste and offered solution. And yet, when planners do raise the question, they often hit resistance from the venues and the caterers. So the demand is there, the goodwill is there, and what's missing is the knowledge and the tools, and maybe also the confidence to act. And so that's exactly what today's sessions is here to help you with. And before we go further, so would like to, hear from you. And so we have a poll, and you can, again, you'll see the voting system in the chat popping up. So how would you describe your organization's current approach to food waste at events or at your venue? So you have the option between we don't track it, we track it informally or occasionally, we have a structured process in place, or great, we track and report against targets. So I don't see the results. I'm not sure if we have launched the poll. Otherwise, if we can, if Margot, because I don't see the, here, yeah, I can see it. So, okay. Give you, so we have only a couple of votes, so we give it another few seconds. But at the moment, it looks like, okay, 50% of you track it informally or occasionally. And there's also one reply, we track and report against targets. So that's a bit of mix. So it's it's interesting to see that, okay, maybe we are the early stage of the process, and we need a bit more information. And so that's why I would like to introduce someone who can help you move to the next level, and that's Ben Philibert, who spent years working with event organizers to turn good intentions into verified results. So Ben, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Erica. So thank you everyone for joining today. It's exciting because this is work that started about like 4 years ago now, and that is constantly evolving. But I would like to present to you this approach that actually has been transformed into a certification scheme that is called the Pledge on Food Waste for Events. That was actually applied during the ICCA Congress. So in a nutshell, that used to be called Zero Food Waste to Landfills event, and now called the Pledge for Event. Anyway, the approach is what is the Pledge for Event is a proven methodology that enables professionals to reduce, distribute, and divert food waste from the landfills. So that means that the idea was to apply a systematic approach and ensure that every food that has been prepared and is not eaten on the spot has been kept carefully so they can be redistributed for human consumption. What has ended up in the bin is clearly segregated so that it can be transformed, with the ultimate objective to strive for zero food waste to landfills for the event. So there are basically 8 pillars that are being applied at different moments of the event, so before, during, and after the event, and that apply different type of stakeholders that are engaged. So the first pillar is about forecasting. So this is highly important, is to eliminate overproduction and aligning food supply with actual demand. Easier said than done, but highly important to be able to be as specific and as close to the moment the food is actually prepared to understand how many people will actually be sitting or joining be on the buffet line to eat the food. That's moving from guessing to actually data-driven planning. That's the first pillar. Second pillar is about communication and promotion, meaning that they are ambition, they are commitment that there will be food waste prevention embedded in the way the event is being run, so that stakeholders are already kind of anticipating that there will be something special, that food waste is part of the way the event is run, and that should be a constant throughout the event. That's to prepare kind of and change the perception by the delegates. Pillar number 3 is staff responsibilities and training. So it is to foster a culture of prevention and accountability. Really, this is something that we've been experiencing over the past, now 13 years working on the topic of food waste in the food service industry, which is why. So getting the teams, not only in the kitchen, but also those that will be running the floor and all the stakeholders to understand why food waste is an issue, then they will more easily follow clear procedures during the event. That is to make sure that food is kept. The rest is clearly segregated, and basically everything is disposed of properly. Then the pillar number 4, which is still before the event, is who shall the event organizers connect with? What is the ecosystem of food waste solution providers that we can work with? And Remeke will share typically who were the team. So in Porto, food rescue organization is one. Those that can collect and redistribute the food surplus to feed the needy. And the rest is who can collect the organic waste if it cannot be transformed on the spot, who can collect it to transform it in a way that is much better than just sending to the landfill, which is the worst possible option. So it's basically focusing on feeding people and not the landfills. Now, during the event, it's actually in between, during, and before and during the event, which is rethink menu. That's one thing, which is how being creative with your menus, including to think in terms of what are the offcuts of one dish during the preparation that can be used and reutilized into other part of the menu. So trying to think more in terms of connected, and ultimately the service and the way to prepare to present the food is important also. So we're talking also in terms of what are the practices that help to reduce food waste. Giving you an example, we see on and on that if the team is not trained, they would keep on bringing food, even really looking at did everybody eat already, or 90% of the expected guests already ate or not. Do we adapt the portion depending on the time of the service? Those are examples. Then pillar number 6 is about delegates engagement. That's really something I really enjoy because delegates are much more responsive than they used to. So they are curious. So there are different ways. It's about using different touch points that are physical touch points during the event, that are either on displays with the screens or the table talkers, but also with the staff. So wearing different pins and badges, and with the delegates. So it was great to run this campaign, which is the Food Warriors, and engaging delegates to basically commit to finish their plates, something very simple during the event, and giving them a small distinction that they were wearing throughout the whole event. Pillar number 7 is about monitoring, rescuing, and transforming food waste. So that means everything, as I mentioned, the procedures are in place. You save as much as you can, which then will be recovered by the food waste organization. The remaining waste streams are measured, and so that you can collect data, and performance is linked to data, and that is needed in order to define if you're doing great or not. And ultimately, it will be about communicating post event, about the achievement, the challenges also, and this is something that La Fameke will be covering. And ultimately, the compliance platform is helping the adopters of the pledge for events to upload all the evidences of implementation, because it is being verified, and for the big event, it is audited, so that the event can actually achieve the certification at the end of the journey. So all is on a digital platform and basically digitalized to make the implementation easy. That's it on my side. Back to you, Margot.
Thank you, Ben. So actually, yeah, it's clear that having a structure frameworks makes all the difference. So based on your experience implementing the pledge on food waste framework, what is the one action organizers, should start first in the approach of reducing food waste?
That is a question to me as a poll?
Yes, it's to you. To you.
Okay,
The
so
poll
the
is
one
coming
thing,
afterwards.
thank you, Erica. Sorry, I got confused with the poll.
That's okay. That's okay.
I think is as simple as make it a topic. There is no need for something a crazy fancy technology. This is more advanced, but it has to be a topic because there's a lot that can be done if the issue is being discussed. If it is not being discussed, then nothing will happen. So my short answer to a much more complex problem is make it a topic, discuss with the stakeholders about this issue.
Yeah, and from the start, I think we all agree.
And from the start, yes, you're right.
Exactly. So before we hear from how ICCA put this into practice, we'd love to know from where you stand, where you feel is the biggest barrier stopping you from doing more. So not knowing where to start, the resistance coming from the new catcher, client, your client, it's not a priority for your client, lack of budget or resources, or you're already doing it and just wanting to go further. I will give you a few more seconds to vote. So I see the first few votes. So only a few reply, but I think, okay, well, wing it with with the answers we get. But I think it's not a priority from the client. And it's funny because, the survey shows that potentially it could be. And I'm always, saying when you look at, who's the audience. And Ben, you talked about it, is also the engagement of the audience. But we know the audience is always eager and want more. Also on the events that we see the whole aspect of sustainability. So I think if we'll always use that lens as, what does the audience want, I think we can overcome also sometimes the discussion with our clients. So then moving on, so Gemeke is going to show us what it looks like when an organization decides to go all in. So the ICCA Congress 2025 in Porto set out to achieve something ambitious, zero waste to landfill, and this verified. So Gemeke, tell us why food waste become a priority for ICCA and what challenge or challenges you were trying to solve.
Thank you very much, Erica. And also on my behalf, a warm welcome to all of you. In my case, it's very much warm because I'm based in Europe at the moment where we're having a heat wave. So, but very excited also to be part of this conversation today because it is a very important topic. And I think listening to you, Erica, to the numbers, it's every time I've seen them before, but it does shock me every time again. And so it's important that we have those conversations and that we have the webinar like today to keep working on it, because I do believe that we can make a change. And it's even funny to think personally, at the end of the week, I always check my fridge. Is it empty? When I invite friends over the weekend for a barbecue, I do want to make sure we bring them enough food and the right food, but I want to make sure I don't have sausages left at the end of the barbecue. So for me, it's also a mindset. I think this is one of the points I would like to already drop on the table here, is that, looking at food waste and what we do with our food at events, it's also having the right mindset to start. So I think that's maybe a first. And it's good to see a few familiar faces here. I see also new people, so it's great to connect with all of you online. And for those of you who don't know ICCA, as Erica said, we are the International Association for Congress and Conventions. We're based in Amsterdam, but really truly global with offices all over the world. And we actually were founded in 1963, so we do go back quite a while. And I'm very happy to say that we're also one of the founding partners of the Net Zero Carbon event. So we really truly believe that we can change and move the needle together through partnerships. As you can see on the slide here, we're quite big, so we have over 1,100 members all over the world. We do quite a bit of events, of which the annual Congress that we're going to talk about in a minute is really our key event, which is also the event where we try to educate our members, where we try to raise awareness on topics like, for instance, food waste. And important, as I just heard as well in the chat and through with Erica and Ben, is that it's the clients. How do we convince the clients to join us? This is where we also try to work very closely with a group of associations, which are the clients in our case, because our members are all, if you like, the supply side of association meetings. So think about Congress venues, PCOs, convention bureaus, but they work very closely, of course, with associations who bring in their congresses. So the connection there is very important to have. If we look at the next slide, you actually see we're truly global. So as I said, we're all over the world, where the biggest membership base is in Europe, with more than half. But the nice thing is we are growing in other parts of the world, which also means that every topic that we are discussing, like, for instance, this one, we really try to bring it to all the different regions in the world where we are. So we really raise awareness on the topic with all our members. The last slide, the next one, actually shows you different segments. So we have a number of segments we work with. The biggest groups in this list are really the destination marketing, as we call them. Think about your local convention bureau or even your Minister of Tourism. And the other big group is really the venues. And this, of course, is very interesting for the food waste story, because you also need to work closely with your venues. The other groups are meetings management. So for instance, PCOs, agencies, and don't forget the AV partners that are very important, and transport. One group we haven't added to this slide is our new community, which is called ICCA Uni, which is all about connecting also the academic world with the industry. Also in terms of like doing projects like this, it's important that we involve academic research in understanding better where we're going, where are the gaps, where are the needs, but also where are potentially the solutions. So you might wonder, okay, why does ICCA care and why you should care? I think if you're not convinced yet by the numbers, I'll hopefully be able to share a bit more through our event in Porto. But it really, if we look at the next slide, it starts from the beginning, which is strategy. I think it's important. You can be very action-driven, very hands-on, but to make it really sustainable, to really make it last, you have to integrate it strategically in what you do in your organization, how small or how big you are. So ICCA has a Vision 2030 where we're looking at how can we be more future ready, how can we make sure that with all the challenges surrounding us, we can be there in 2030 in a sustainable way, in DEI way and legacy wise. Because at the end of the day, in order to have our members being better in doing business, in becoming better professionals, they need to be future ready. And to be future ready, you do need to think about sustainability. So this is one of the main pillars in our vision. And of course, if we then go to the next slide, you see we bring it down to a number of journeys we then build. Today, we're talking about our food waste journey. And as Ben said as well, it's something that is a process. It's in steps. It's not something you do in one day or one night. So my advice here already is through learning of these actions we undertook is plan for the longer term and see it and consider it as a journey, which also means that you learn, you might fail, but you learn again. So our journey here started in Bangkok in 23, where we started to have the first conversations with our partners and members about what do we do about this big issue, which is food waste? What can we do? And we moved on quite quickly. Then we need to find solutions. We need to find methodologies. We need to find a partner, which in this case is Lightblue, together to really make this difference. So at Congress the year after, in Abu Dhabi, we started actually really working with Lightblue and the local partners that you see on the slide here, because without them, you don't do it. And that's one lesson we learned. You can have great ideas, but if you don't have the right partners, nor the local partners with you, it doesn't go very far. So we learned a lot in Abu Dhabi, also looking ahead at the year after, which we're going to now is Porto. And the interesting exercise we did is that we brought the local team from Porto together with the Abu Dhabi team and the Bangkok team in one session where we actually had the conversation. Okay, what did you learn in Bangkok? What are you currently learning in Abu Dhabi? Because that's where we were at that moment. And what do you think for Porto? What can you already take with you now to prepare for next year in Porto? So it's really showing you here that you need to open up the conversation. I think as we heard, it's about have the topic on the table, have it on your agenda and open up it to your stakeholders. So this is what we did. And then we started, of course, working on Porto, even more motivated and ambitious than, if I may say, the previous year. So if we go to the next slide, we decided together with the local Porto team, with Lightblue and partners, say like, okay, this is part. Food waste is part of our impact and strategy methodology. It's part of our vision. We need to do something differently. So this is something we've seen from Ben. So we can go to the next slide, where it's really about starting from the beginning. What kind of event do you have? Where do you start? Just one more. And the funny part is with Porto, I don't know if people in the room know Porto as a city, but it's an amazing city, of course. And we said, okay, we're going to really use the city as our venue. So we're not going to be in one Congress venue where everything is happening, where we just have one caterer. We said, no, why do it easy when you can make it difficult? We said, we're going to use different venues in the city, different caterers in the venue for our annual Congress. So great idea, but of course you can imagine the logistic nightmare for the events team. And I'm not talking about Lightblue and Ben and the team. They were like, great idea, but very complex from the start. But again, I think this is part of what you also need to be able to do is try out, because that's when you really learn. And this is what we see was the first big learning, I think, was the multi-venue concept, different venues, different caterers, think about standardizing procedures. Because of course, every caterer might have their own way of doing, their own way of dealing with food waste. Try as much as possible from the beginning in the process, in the pre-event phase, to have that conversation so that once you are on site, it is already a little bit more aligned. Yeah. Then if we go to the next slide, of course, one very, very important thing is the numbers. In order not to have food waste, ideally, you know exactly, of course, how many people are sitting in that room and how many of those people go to the buffet, how many people actually eat at the buffet, and so on. So we've been trying really with ICCA to measure as much as possible and to give those numbers on time to the caterers. I think we were quite successful because it was a repeated element. We were like from the beginning when people register, of course, which is easy for an event, but then getting closer to the date, we started to measure even further. demanding people to confirm. We had RSVP systems in place. We had an application, an app to check. And even on site in the morning, or when the moderator would talk, we would really encourage people to go to the table, to buffet, not to skip dinner and so on. So it was all the way through that, you know, raising awareness, trying to have those numbers as accurate as possible, because you can imagine suddenly if numbers drop drastically, caterers need to adapt, they need to change what's happening in the kitchen, they need to change what goes on the buffet. So one of the learnings, and I'll come back to it later as well, key learnings for us at ICCA was that communication between the events team, the education team that is basically managing the flow of the program with the caterers, people in the kitchen, needs to be very, very, very close, because if something happens in that part, it will affect the other part. So that's one thing. Then if we go to the next slide. Of course, it was all about food offering and having there a clear plan in place. So we then designed a comprehensive food offering plan, which was detailing the when and the how. I think you can see it on the pictures here. We had information on the tables, we had information on the screens, we had information in the corridors, so that people really understood exactly when we were serving food, where the food was, and what kind of food they got. So I think communication is very important here. And we did this very closely with the venues and the catering companies together. Yeah. Then if we go to the next slide. This is already where it becomes a bit more technical, and this is where, of course, you need the help of the right people to do this. As you can see on the plan, it looks a bit like an engineer thing, but it's, you know, being sure about where you dispose what. So it's really the food waste disposal plan, as we call it, that needs to be developed together with the team on site, so that you know exactly where the waste is segregated, how it's done properly. You need the right tools or bins. You see the picture here with the different bins that need to be labeled. You need recording stations. You need, as I remember Ben saying, how much he's been like weighing in the evenings as well, like the food. And it's all very detailed work, but it's important because, again, you want to make sure that the right food goes to the right place, or the right things go to the right place. So this is, of course, something that is part of behind the scenes. This is something that our members didn't see, but we are talking about it now and showing them, like, this is actually what we did while you, or after, when you were finishing your day at Congress. If we go to the next slide, the point about the food rescue, very important. I think this is one of the things you really need to integrate this. And we were lucky to have two great partners in Porto, ReFood and O Carachão de Cidade. And I'm sorry about my Portuguese, still not there. But they really helped us to make sure that all the food was rescued, that we could really give to other organizations. And you see it again on the pictures. They were very active. They were really there on site. We had these nice boxes, and then they brought everything with the van at the moment, quite quickly after the event, of course, after the day, to the right organizations. If we then go to the next slide, this is for me one of the key takeaways, and this is something we do with ICCA, not only for food waste, but in many, if you'd like, priorities we focusing on, is that it's about training. It's about raising capacity. It's about building capacity, that people really understand, okay, why are we doing this? This is one. And then how do we do this? How can we learn on site, so that when the Congress is gone, because of course, at some point the event is finished, people leave the city and that's it. How do we make sure that the work is continued, and that the next events coming to that caterer or venue, they can actually continue with the learnings they had? So this was for us very important. So we did training beforehand online, several months before the event. We had them training on site, as you can see with the pictures, and we learned them, for instance, about how to, do proper waste segregation, how to, monitor the food waste, how, the rescue, all these different parts that we saw had to be told, explained, showed on site to the staff members, of course, there. So this was, I think, a really nice experience as well for them on site. Then if we go to the next one slide, this is key, as well as the training. I think it's the communication, not only before the event and during, but also after. This is what we're trying to do at ICCA, having everything on our website, having this on social media, obviously, but also in our reporting, in our surveys, and using everything that we've done in Porto also in webinars after, in our communication to new members, or when people ask about it, that we have documents ready, we have the report ready, because it's so important to talk about it. And for me, it's always about repeat, repeat, repeat. I think, don't just leave it one time and we've done it. Keep telling the story. So this webinar today, it's actually a great opportunity to again show what we've done and how important it is to do this together as well. One point maybe was that one which we thought it was a good one, and I know some other people do this as well, other organizations, that we were communicating through the days as well what was done the day before. So we could, because everything, as you could see, was measured, monitored the day itself, the evenings, everything was weighed. So we could know the next day, actually, this is the food that we rescued yesterday, and this is what we should be trying to do today. So also there, making your delegates be co-responsible, I think, in what you do. And the engagement, as you see here on the pictures, is crucial. For me, I really like the warrior sticker that we went, to put on people's badges, and then we start a conversation like, this is a sticker, do you know what it means? And obviously people had seen already different posters, they had seen the information on the table. So it was something of really making sure that it's not just, again, oh, we do this and we'll see, but engaging, creating awareness, and hopefully, having people taking it back home for their own events. Maybe as one of the last slides, the rescue, I think the numbers, and Ben will come back to the data a little bit later, but it's a big number. I think, maybe it doesn't sound much, but it's huge. I think 1,495 kilos of food were actually rescued, which I think it's a huge thing. And it's equivalent to 2,990 meals. Which, when you hear that, it's a lot of food. And interestingly, it's actually 2,062 meals more than the year before. So you can imagine the progress we made. And hopefully we'll be able to do better again, looking ahead at our Congress this year in Panama. So numbers do count, and measuring is important, because this helps you to also get better and understand maybe what you need to do better. If we go to the learnings, to the next slide, I think I maybe want to give one learning here, because I'm also checking the time. It's, you can imagine, with a big event of 1,500 people, a lot of things move, a lot of things go last minute, not really right. This happened also, of course, with us. And one example, and was really unfortunate, but again, this was a big learning for us, was our gala dinner. Beautiful evening, people were dressed up beautifully, we had great food, the quality of the food, I'm not even talking about that, but in Portugal, you can imagine, was top. So we had this great gala dinner, but then the big moment, the DJ started to play. And what happens in our industry, people get really excited about dancing, so everybody vroom on the dance floor, and then at that moment the dessert arrived. So it was really a pity, because the dessert again was amazing, and unfortunately a lot of that food was then wasted. So that was a big learning from, again, event side, from ICCA side, where we go, okay, we didn't communicate properly. There was something that didn't go right because this happened. And there's a few other examples where we learned that, okay, you need to be really better aligned. But again, as I said, all good learnings. If we then go to the end, I think we're very happy to say that, we got the pledge, which is for us a big achievement. It's also to show that we are serious about what we do. It's not just, again, a one-off. We really want to show the industry we did it, but you can do this as well. We have an implementation report that is, you can share, because we want to show this to people, like how we did it, what did we learn, what did we do wrong, and how we'll be doing it differently next year, or even this year. Because if we look at this year, we're going to Panama. If we go to the next slide, so the next step in our food waste journey is taking it again to our next Congress, which is in November. And we are already starting to work on it now. So we're even taking steps earlier than Porto. We're looking at which are going to be the caterers that we're going to train. What are we going to bring them? So internally, our teams are already much more eager to advance on this topic, because we did so much in Porto and we want to do more in Panama. So there you go. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Hemeke. So it's very inspiring. So I took a few notes, but for me, yeah, it's true. It's collaboration. I like the idea, that you put the different teams for the different events together, so they share actively share their knowledge. Building capacity, I think it's also linked to the legacy, and for me also telling the story. We know communication and telling the story is key to make this happen. So from the feedback that you got from the delegates or partner, what gave you confidence that the initiative was creating value beyond waste reduction?
I think we see it really on 3 levels or 3 groups, as you mentioned, Eric. I think the first one is definitely the local partners in Porto in this case, and we hear an example a little bit later as well, but showing really that, we've done this together, we've learned, and we'll move forward with it. It's not just, again, we've really generated positive impact in the destination. And this was, for me, one of the biggest, the value drivers in, like, you train local people, you raise awareness locally, and they continue with you without you even, which is great. The second one, the members, of course, we had a lot of people coming up to us saying, oh, this is a great initiative, we really like it, keep doing it. So I think encouragement in general. And the same questions came to the table. Yeah, but how much is it costing? How did you do it? So we got a lot of more from the event planners within our members who were saying, like, wanting to know more about technically, logistically, how we did it. So I think there was definitely a lot of interest from our members, and the good thing is that they will be expecting this more, not only at our annual Congress, but also at the other events. So as I said, this is us trying also to lead by example, say, like, if we want things to change, we have to change ourselves. So this is really what we try to bring in our Congress. And for us, within ICCA staff members, even the teams, were like, okay, we really understand the importance. We are going to continue this even more. And as I said, try to bring this in all our events, and hopefully trying in that way to inspire members to also do it, or do it more, because I see people are already doing it, but keep doing it. Let's keep doing this together, because we can have an impact. How small it might look, it has an impact. So in a way, very positive at the end. Yeah.
Great. Thank you very much. And actually, we, from the survey, and also from the sometimes we're pointing the finger to the venue, the catering, and how we can get them on board, and that it's challenging. And so I'm very happy to say, that we have Claudia from Silva Carvalho Catering also to share her expertise and to see that actually, yes, it's possible to make it happen. So Claudia, if you want to share your own experience and, how, maybe how was your initial reaction to the project?
So I would like to start by thanking Pledge for the invitation of being here. Thank you. I'm representing here the two country companies of Ibersol Group, the Palace Catering and Silva Carvalho Catering. And before talking about food waste, I would like to show you a little bit of our organizations. So how do we organize ourselves to avoid food waste? Food waste is a very important issue to Ibersol Group and to Silva Carvalho and Palace Catering. Our productions are carefully planned to avoid the food waste. And the food waste does not begin at the end of the event. It begins much earlier, as Ben and Jem said in their presentations. So the planning is very, very important for the food waste at the event. So if I have to summarize our organization, I'll say we have 4 key areas. We have the central kitchen, we have the sales department, the operations, and the warehouse equipment. So let's begin talking about the central kitchen. 90% of our products are produced in the central kitchen. At events, our teams only focus on the preparation and regeneration of the foods. In the central kitchen, the executive chef is responsible for developing the recipes and technical specifications for all our products. So we have these specifications, and they integrate an IT system that supports the entire process. So from the menu design, so the items we choose for the menu, to the production, they're all set up. So these technical specifications in the system, the technical specifications. I'm sorry. Can you go to the other slide, please, Margot? No. Okay. So this. No, the second slide. I think it's easier like that. Okay, these specifications are integrated in an IT system that supports the entire process, from menu design to production and the purchasing to our suppliers. When the sales department receives a proposal from a client, they create a budget. So we know every cost of the event, the menu, the staffing, the logistics, and the decor. So when we develop a proposal, we know everything about the cost of that event. That's one of the first things we do for food waste and for preventing the food waste. We have everything really lined up. Then the sales, the event manager, the sales team defines portions. Based on the selected menu, the event manager defines the portions we serve. And the systems converts these portions into raw material so we can do our orders to the suppliers. The definition of the portions is a key item for all this process and to avoid food waste. Then we have the operational team. In the next slide, thank you. The operational team is responsible for turning an event into an efficient execution. So they bring to life everything that has been planned until that point. So they ensure the timely ordering of the raw materials, the supplies and the equipment. They coordinate the teams involved, the kitchen, the service, the suppliers, and they ensure that we have an efficient execution. The operational team ensures the right resources are available at the right time and reducing waste and delivery event as planned. At last but not least, we have the equipment warehouse, where we store, we inspect, and we prepare all materials that we have at our events. So we store linen, equipments, materials, and then they are organized to go to the event as the event planner asked us. So during busy weeks, in busy periods such as this week or last week, the warehouse plays a critical role in the success of the event, because if the wrong equipment or the wrong material goes to an event, the team must return to the warehouse and collect the correct items, so creating unnecessary delays and additional work. So this plays a very important role in all our organization. So speaking now about actions and the factors that influence food waste, I have several here. So the portion planning goes beyond technical specifications. We have those specifications, and when the event manager defines these proportions, they need to think about other factors that can influence waste levels. So the first one, I think one of the most important ones, is the confirmation of the number of participants and guests. So confirmation of the number of participants is critical, because if the numbers are changing, we have to adapt our production, and we cannot always change the production. So it's very critical, because if we have next Monday, we are going to have an event was planned to 250 people, but the number changed from 250 to 200. So this is a huge difference. If we knew this information on the day before the event, will be catastrophic, because we couldn't adapt and adjust our productions. So this is the confirmation, and the anticipation we have. This confirmation is quite important for our production. The other one, and this was a lesson from ICCA, the other one is the plate size. So at ICCA, we only have smaller plates, as ICCA asked us, because they wanted to to reduce the quantity that people serve themselves. So smaller plates reduce the tendency to serve excessive quantities. When we have a buffet, we want to experiment everything, so we put everything on our plate. And then when we go to the table, we are not able to eat everything we put on the plate. So smaller plates are very important to defining the portions also. The event format. So if we have a cocktail or we have a seated event, the consumption is not the same, so we are more relaxed when we are seated. It's different. People normally are more relaxed and they eat a little bit more. So that's a point that we need to be careful when we plan our doses. The meal and the schedule and duration is very important. In ICCA we have 1 hour to the lunchtime. It's a short time. It's a little bit short. Normally we have 1.5 or 2 hours for for the lunchtime. So the people with 1 hour, people eat a little bit faster and they are not so relaxed. So this is also an important item to this definition. Then we have the variety of the dishes we offered. At ICCA, the highest level of food waste was recorded on the second day because we had 27 menu items that served. So the other days we only have 17, so this was a big difference. More items, more quantity we need to have at the buffet. So this is also important for the food waste and also the definition of the doses. And then when we have more than 1 day event, the multi-day events, the production is adjusted based on the consumptions. What are the event planning doing? So we can correct from 1 day to another the production, and on the third day of ICCA the level of waste was the minimum, was the lowest of the 3 days, because we learned about the plate, we learned about the time, so we just produced less quantities for the event, for the event day. Okay, so the preparation of the teams and the efficiency of the operation. We have annual training. All employees receive training in food safe and workplace safe. And the leaders, the supervisors also have the leadership development program. Then we have a small coordinated service between between the service and the kitchen. So they need to be well coordinated, because if the kitchen doesn't know how the plan is going to be, they just produce, and the service can say, oh, take it easy because clients are going away, so we don't need more food. So this coordination is very important to the food waste. And then we maintain a safety stock within the cold chain. So we only use that if it's necessary. Then we have what ICCA, the results of ICCA. I summarize here the results. We have the operations, the food donation, and the full team coordination. So the detailed information, our experience and knowledge of the venue, we do a lot of events in Alfândega. So knowing how Alfândega and the workplace works for us is very important. It plays a very important role on the success of the event. That all this information and the knowledge of the venue smooth the operation over the 3 days. And then we have the food donation. If it was the first time we had zero waste event, We have for more than 15 years the partnerships with social organizations that help us maximize the surplus foods. So we do it already for a very long time. And then we have all the teams involved in months of preparation. So the critical moments were clearly identified, and I think it was a very good Congress for us. So about learnings and reflections about the ICCA. So the early collaboration
Claudia, I'm sorry. Sorry, I hate to do that. Maybe you can pick one key learning, because I see we're getting stretched on time and we still have one more section to cover. Thank you.
Okay, no problem. So I think the organizational capacity and the level of detail of information that provide us are essential to ensure that the entire process runs smoothly and correctly. So every event is different from the other. Every participants are different. So as much the detail information is really very important for us to organize as better as we can the whole process of the event.
Of the approach, yeah. Thank you very much, Claudia. So it's always interesting to see, what's happening behind the scene, that sometimes we underestimate all the work that's going into it. So thank you for sharing that also transparently on what happened. So maybe then I'll give you the last few words on, how does, tie this in everything, how you helped ICCA and the team achieve that.
Thank you very much. Yeah, no, just in a nutshell, just to keep everyone, I know everyone is busy. So just to explain, indeed, preparation is everything. So I would say that most of the work is happening before the event is actually being implemented. So alignment, logistic are the two key words. So who are the stakeholders, who will be doing what, anticipating the partnership for the rescue, who will cover what shift, to come and pick up either the food surplus or to transform the organic waste. Monitoring is just like part of the procedure, and anticipating the delegate-facing communication during the event is a bit like what we covered already. So the staff is aware and is following certain procedures. Then we ensure that the best practices are respected, segregation, engagement. Then we are, measuring and collecting data, that's for sure, as well as evidences that are put on the compliance platform in order to pursue the pledge for event certification. And then ultimately we accompany our partners in the verification or the audit process to ensure that they would actually reach the highest possible score. And then it's all about the technical implementation reports, as well as support to the communication campaign to select the most relevant information to be put forward. So to conclude, a couple of key data. Some of them have been covered, but close to 100% of all the food surplus were actually rescued, which was extremely interesting. So we are talking about, on average, there was about 189 grams that were not consumed. But as Jameke was sharing, close to 1.5 tons of food that were redistributed to us was like such a great achievement by everyone. To be able to feed close to 3,000 people is something that indeed a number on the screen doesn't really speak. Once you see the amount of food, once you box it, and once you give it to those amazing people that are coming and on their own time, sometimes using their own cars, not being paid for that, to feed other people that are in need, it really, it is meaningful. It is something that remind us why we do also what we do. So a big congrats to and big thank you first to ICCA for giving this that leadership, showing the industry that this is possible. Of course, to all the partners that were involved at the back of house and all the stakeholders that made it possible. We are thrilled to be able to influence and to share best practices and hopefully nudge the industry towards a more a more circular mindset and taking food and food waste as one of the driver to reduce the impact and to engage and to shift mindsets of delegates as well as all the ecosystem of professional event professionals is something to me that is it's powerful. It's something that drives us to do more. So thank you for the opportunity. I think it was really insightful, and we'd like to make sure that we leave the floor for some question if there are any questions from the audience.
So I didn't see any questions in the chat, but you know, if you have a few more minutes, I'm mindful because I think some of the speakers have other commitments afterwards. But yeah, thank you. I think you're very nice closing words, Ben. It's very inspiring. So I'd like also to say thank you to Remeke and Claudia for sharing, and just shows that it's possible. So like we mentioned, the session is recorded. We're still on, and so you'll be receiving the recording, and you have access also to some other resources. So like the recording today is hosted on the Net Zero Carbon Events YouTube channel, so feel free to go and have a look at there on what's being shared. Also linked to the pledge, and also we've created with the task force some guidance on food and food waste. So it's always a good reference document. And I still don't see any questions. So thank you very much for staying on with us. We hope it was a great learning for you. It inspired you. Sometimes it's about taking baby steps. That's what ICCA did at the beginning, and then you can roll out the full spectrum of on your event. We hope to see you on another webinar very soon. If you have any wish for a specific topic, also feel free to use the chat box. And on that, again, thank you very much to our three great speakers, and we wish you an excellent rest of the day. Take care. Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.